Hello, I'd like to talk to you today about the "Where's my refund still being processed" message that a lot of people are seeing once they log in to check their refund status. Um, you'll log in at, IRS "Where's my refund," and one day you'll be able to see bars, and then the next day you'll go back and you're not seeing no bars. You're just seeing this "still being processed" message. If you're seeing this message "still being processed," "Where's my refund" is telling you that the IRS cannot guarantee you a refund within the 21 days. I'd like to start out by saying that no two tax returns are ever guaranteed to run the same process. Last year versus this year means nothing for a few reasons, like your tax bracket changed and the tax laws have changed, any of which can increase processing time regardless of whether you had the same job for 10 years or not. Whether you e-filed or mailed your tax return into the IRS, the computer processes all tax returns. If you e-filed your return, you have a front row because your tax return was submitted electronically. When submitted electronically, all your tax forms are submitted to the IRS in a PDF version and easy for the IRS computers to process. If you submitted your tax return by paper, it'll take a little bit longer for you guys because the IRS has to hire someone to actually scan your tax forms into their system. The computer system at the IRS is called the Integrated Data Retrieval Tool, and it processes all returns and all data at the IRS. If for some reason the computer flags your tax return, you will see the "still being processed" message while the IRS sends your return to the desk of a tax examiner in the reviews department to actually look it over for further review. Here are some of the conditions that could characterize your tax return for review. Mathematical errors. Whenever your tax return contains mathematical errors, the IRS is responsible for straightening out that information, which causes additional review times. For example, if you transpose two numbers, the IRS will correct the mathematical error, but the corrections will delay processing. Miscalculating credits and deductions. When you prepare your own return, you're responsible for calculating your credits and deductions. If you're unfamiliar with the process, knowing whether you should use the gross income or adjusted gross income to calculate the credit can be confusing. If you made a mistake calculating the credit or deduction, the IRS will red flag your return for further processing. At this point, the tax examiner will go over your return and recalculate your credits and deductions to make sure your return is accurate. A red flag will spark a review and delay processing of your return. Missing forms. If you forgot to include a form with your income tax return, the IRS has to prepare one for you. When you claim certain credits and deductions, you usually have to prepare certain forms. Not submitting your entire return can cause delays and extend review time of your tax return. Additional information. If there's a problem with your tax return, one that the IRS can't fix, you'll receive a letter in the mail. The letter should include a contact number, the reason for the review, and additional information needed to finish processing your return. The faster you respond to the letter, the faster the IRS will process your tax return and get you your tax refund. The IRS staffs a dedicated team of return examiners in the reviews department that are highly trained to check the returns for quality assurance, notice or letters that need issued, interest reduction, effectiveness, and completeness. How long will your tax return be held up while under review? Once your return goes for further review by a tax examiner, there is no set date on when you might get an update. Most updates post to "Where's my refund" on Wednesday mornings and Saturday mornings based on which type of processing account you have with the IRS. Depending on what the tax examiner finds that needs to be done to fix or resolve your tax return will determine how long your tax return will be delayed or resequenced. If it is something simple like a math error that a tax examiner can fix quickly, you may be able to be resequenced up into the next week's cycle. But say your tax return needs notices or letters mailed to you and then faxed back to the IRS, or more documents need to be mailed into the IRS, they have to wait, or they have to wait for an employer to submit more documents. These are just a couple of things that could delay your tax refund and resequence your tax return for several months. The IRS follows standard operating procedures and strict guidelines on every tax return that they process. There is a standard protocol that every tax return has to go through to be able to be finalized. If you are owed a tax refund, the IRS will not issue a refund until all transactions are finalized and post to your account. One thing to remember is if you have this still being processed message and your tax return is still under review, if you haven't heard anything within 45 days, you can call the IRS to follow up with them to find out what exactly is going on with your tax return. Does this review mean I'm getting audited? No, this does not mean you're being audited. This just means your tax return is being reviewed, most likely because it met the conditions outlined for a further review and was flagged by the computer and needed someone to check it over. You can find out more information on IRS reviews by searching Review Processing Systems on the irs.gov's website. Why did the IRS pull my return for random review? While a small percentage of tax returns are chosen at random for a closer review, the majority of tax filers who pop up on the IRS's radar do so because of something called the Discriminant Function System, or DIF score. This is a computerized scoring system that evaluates your return to determine whether some changes need to be made. A second model used is the Unreported Income DIF, or the UI-DIF score. It rates your return for the possibility that there was income that wasn't reported. Returns that are assigned a high DIF or UI-DIF score are more likely to be pulled aside for review. Examples of things that could trigger a higher score include having a substantial higher or lower amount of reported income compared to previous years, claiming excessive deductions for business expenses, or leaving a 1099 form off of your tax return. I know that this still being processed, a refund date will be provided when available is a very common message that everybody's every year is trying to figure out what this actually means and why everybody's seeing it. One day you log in and you have bars, and then the next day you're seeing this message, and then you might see this message for months and don't know what to do. I hope this video will clear up how the review process works and give you an idea. This isn't all of the things that would set you up for review, but this outlines some of the things that'll trigger your account and get your tax return sent over to the reviews department to have a tax examiner check it out. Another thing to consider is the Where's My Refund tool. This is not the end of all answers to what's happening with your tax return. It's a very basic indicator that isn't equipped with a whole lot of potential responses. If you have your return stuck on this still being processed screen for months, or even after the 21 days, and Where's My Refund is telling you nothing, you need to create a login and obtain access to your account transcripts so that you can view them online. What you'll need to do is go to the IRS's Get Transcript page and create a login there so that you can get real-time information that can be updated when the transcripts update on Tuesdays and Fridays every week. It's not saying that you're going to get an update every week, but on Tuesdays and Fridays the transcripts update, and if you log in and check this out, you can check the transaction codes and try to figure out what's going on and what's holding up your refund. If you're seeing this still being processed message, all it means is that the IRS cannot guarantee you a refund within 21 days, and that they've had to pull your tax return for further review, and it could be cleared up within 3 to 5 days, or it could take up to a month to even 3 or 4 months for them to resolve this. If you have any questions about how the review process works or anything like that, feel free to contact us at facebook.com/myrefund, or we're available all the time at refundtalk.com. Thank you very much.